And the last thing we're going to focus on with this chapter is how caves and karst topography form, because it's one of the things Florida is very good at. When we look at groundwater, again, it's slightly acidic. Over hundreds, thousands, and millions of years, that slightly acidic groundwater is going to be capable of dissolving that limestone that makes up the majority of the state of Florida. And as that limestone starts to dissolve, it's going to start forming things like caves, sinkholes, and what's known as karst topography or a karst landscape. So when it comes to caves, these form again due to that acidic groundwater. These are going to form in the zone of saturation where the ground is completely full of water. And we're going to see that as this acidic groundwater starts dissolving large pockets of these caves, it's going to start removing the rock, and that dissolved rock is going to be discharged or moved into a nearby stream. So the cave itself is formed in the zone of saturation beneath the water table. But once that cave is above the water table, for whatever reason, we can see that we're going to have calcium carbonate or calcite start being deposited in those caves. And it's going to lead to things like stalactites and stalagmites. As the water is dripping through this area, all of the dissolved calcite within the water is going to be deposited behind. And if this material is hanging from the ceiling, we call it a stalactite with a C. I always remembered stalactite with a C for ceiling. And then stalagmites are the ones that develop upwards from the ground. But karst topography is going to be what the surface of the ground looks like. This type of topography is going to be really significant where there's a lot of dissolution of the rock, and it's going to be really common not only in Florida, but in nearby states like Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky as well. We'll never find these in desert regions simply because there's just not enough groundwater, because there's not enough precipitation. So we only find them in areas where we have high precipitation. But in this karst topography, one of the things that we can commonly and unfortunately see are sinkholes that develop. And this is where we've had a cave that has formed, but eventually the cave gets so tall and the upper ceiling of the cave will get so thin that it'll collapse inwards. And this will just leave a large sinkhole behind. And in Florida, these are fairly common. At least a couple times a year I see in the news a sinkhole developed in this neighborhood and swallowed an entire house in the middle of the night. They're very dangerous things that happen in Florida, especially because of our limestone. But in our top image, I think these look really cool. And these are called tower karst landscapes. And they're these kind of isolated, really steep-sided hills with sinkholes in between them.